Thanks for everyone for joining us, and good afternoon. I'm Lawrence Aldaba, Vice President of Marketing here at Otis College of Art and Design. The Creative Economy Report is a signature initiative for Otis College and has been since its inception in 2007. It really has become a critical tool for understanding the impact of creative industries on California's economy, and is widely referenced by industry leaders, policymakers, educators, and designers who are shaping the creative sectors throughout our region and our state. In 2024, what was once a single report transformed into an ongoing research program powered by our Otis Creative Economy dashboard, which we launched last year. This interactive tool offers an accessible real-time offers accessible real-time data on trends that are impacting creative industries across the state and allows users to compare performance across creative sectors by region. It's a really powerful tool. We're really proud of it and excited about it, and we continue to expand and refine it each year. In addition to the dashboard, we're releasing a series of topical reports throughout the year that dive deeper into key themes and trends facing creative industries. Today, our partners at Westwood Economics and Planning Associates, where we're proud to be there with them today, will share findings from their latest research and a closer look at the performance of creative sectors within the city of Los Angeles. So I'd like to also thank all of our supporters who make the Creative Economy Report and dashboard possible, including the California Community Foundation, City National Bank, the Office of Los Angeles City Councilwoman Tracy Park, Department of Cultural Affairs of the City of Los Angeles, Gallagher, the Getty Foundation, Marsh, Moss Adams, the Music Man Foundation, the Ralph M. Parsons Foundation, Snap Foundation, and Sony Pictures Entertainment. I would also now like to introduce Ben Espinosa with the Department of Cultural Affairs of the City of Los Angeles, which has been a longtime supporter of Otis College and this research. So Ben, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you for the very kind introduction, Lawrence, and for inviting me today. On behalf of the City of Los Angeles's Department of Cultural Affairs, I want to say hello to everyone and thank you. Thank you for being here and for being part of this important community. It really is wonderful. I see some familiar names on the roster here, and I'm generally very appreciative of this opportunity to talk data, arts jobs, and industry trends with you all, my fellow arts advocates. As Lawrence noted, DCA's partnership with Otis College on the report on the creative economy does go all the way back to the very beginning, with the very first edition in 2007, when our then leader of DCA, Olga Garay, and then president of Otis, President Sammy Hoy, recognized the need for really comprehensive research and analysis on the economic powerhouse that is our LA creative sector. Since then, the DCA has been really impressed to see ever expanding use of this research in policymaking and arts advocacy, and how the report really has evolved from year to year. Lawrence touched a bit on this already, but we've seen it expand its scope beyond Los Angeles to statewide, and importantly, from going from this annual 200-page publication to what is now a dynamic online dashboard that's available to us all, updated year round. So since the report's inception, DCA has been a proud supporter of what has been recognized locally and beyond as the advocacy tool for driving investment in our creative economy. If you weren't able to go to Otis's launch event this year back in March, they have a terrific recorded live stream on Otis's website. I'm happy to plug it. It's terrific. And having had a little bit of time now to digest all the reported insights since then, it's really quite a treat to be here today with you all for updates and to learn even more from a deeper dive into the findings. And again, I want to echo those thank yous. I want to thank the amazing teams at Otis and at Westwood Economics, the other project funders, and countless advocacy partners who make this research possible, and very importantly, available to us all. Please do keep up the good work. We need this stuff more than ever. So with that, Lawrence, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Ben, and thank you. We appreciate you joining us and for all of your long support for the report. I would agree with Ben. The live stream is a great resource. We'll plug it again at the end of today's event, but to check out the live stream of our recent launch. So I'm now going to introduce Patrick Adler with Westwood Economics and Planning Associates, who's going to go in detail on their most recent research. So Patrick, please take it away.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Lawrence. Thanks, Ben. Thanks to all of you for joining us. I think this program of research has really been successful because of the good solidarity among stakeholders, be they funders or consumers of this research, or even, like Tanner and myself, producers of this research. So we're just so grateful whenever we get a chance to chat with everyone. We want to really evangelize, first and foremost, about the dashboard tool. As Ben and Lawrence mentioned, we're in this kind of exciting transition with this program of research where we go from a dead tree report that, as we all like to say at Westwood, is sort of it gets less and less relevant as the longer the time passes, to more active research, more regular research supported by a continuously updating dashboard. And so as we're making this transition, we want to do good work, make these dynamic tools really functional. But we also want to tell people about what's going on and really train people a little bit in how to use these tools to the fullest. But then, this is also just an opportunity for everyone here, especially in the Q&A portion, to just talk about issues related to the creative economy, issues, for instance, related to what's going on in entertainment, issues related to what's going on at a sub-county, LA County level, in other parts of the state. And then, this is also a great opportunity for us to listen to the users of our dashboard and install new features. So the features that we are going to be presenting in just a minute were inspired by exchanges with our community last year. Okay, so the event in March really did focus on the kind of substance and trends of what's going on in the creative economy in California. And we also did present some work that we did related to design in Los Angeles. And just very, very briefly, what that research tried to do was make sense of the fact that LA is one of two dominant design centers, design ecosystems in the United States, and try to explain why design would find such fertile ground in Los Angeles. And what we did to make this case is we looked at a particular industry, the toy industry, which is very design intensive, and we found some really interesting interfaces between design in that industry and between that industry and the wider entertainment industry that we believe did explain this kind of over concentration or concentration of design in Los Angeles. So do check out the live stream recording and the report itself to find out more about that. What we're going to do today is focus on the software, as I said, and also some of the issues that that have come up through this analysis. I'll just say, not for the last time, that when we do our own research, like for the March event at Westwood on the California creative economy, it's not like we're using our own special dashboard. We are using the very dashboard that everyone has access to. So just very quickly, we're going to talk a little bit about the creative economy, about the program of research. We're going to talk about new features on the dashboard and trends in the creative economy. And then what we're going to do that's very exciting and of interest to Ben and folks active in or on behalf of the city of Los Angeles is we're going to zero in on trends in the city of Los Angeles versus the surrounding county. And this is the kind of analysis, Lawrence was talking about new directions. This is the kind of analysis that we hope to be doing more of and sharing more of with you. And then finally, we're going to get to questions and answers. So, the final little piece of self-promotion that we'll do on this dashboard is here in this slide. When you have a dashboard and you can hook that dashboard up to APIs where the data is published, then you get the data in its most current format. Okay, so you get up to the date diagnostics on what's going on in the creative economy. There's also this democratic element that I was just getting at, where there's less of a barrier between us as researchers and others as consumers of research. Folks can use the dashboard to conduct their own research. We even have tools that allow people to export images of the analysis they're doing, and they can make sure that their own stakeholders, say donors to an arts organization in Napa County, can get access to the geographically and time sensitive data that's relevant to them. And then finally, I don't need to tell the sort of arts and culture stakeholders, the organizations in the room, that you have to be efficient in this area. You have to be able to do things. You have to like bootstrapping resources, and this is kind of in that spirit, because we invest in the dashboard and then we free up resources to do more targeted research and also more events like this. Okay, so let's get to what's new about the dashboard. For those of you who joined us last year and have been following this software very closely, what we've done very recently and released very recently are 2 new updates. The first, and the one we're actually most proud of, is independent contractor coverage. Okay, so a very interesting thing about most reporting on the creative economy is it relies on folks who are full-time employees in the creative industry. And this is a lot of folks, and there's a strong connection between this part of the creative industry and the independent contractor part. But we have not tended to, and most other followers do not tend to have specific data on independent contractors. We are filling that void a little bit in this program of research by publishing what we believe are some of the first continuously updated estimates of independent contractor activity in the creative economy in California. And then there's also more detailed race categories. So due to sort of sample size considerations, we had last year had basically a white and a non-white category, which for obvious reasons is not ideal. We have fine-tuned the methodology a bit here to report more detailed race categories. So just a little bit more about independent contractors. These are non-salaried employees, so employees that might get lump sum payments or be paid more sporadically. They are tracked by the federal government through tax records, and sometimes when they're reporting their employment status to like statistical agencies, they will misreport that status. What we do is we track the literature on the tax records, and we do analysis of the tax records data, and then we apply findings there to our own analysis of we sort of calibrate our own analysis using the current population survey, using what we've learned from the tax data. So how this sort of shows up in the dashboard, how it lives on the dashboard, is on the worker part of the dashboard. The same part where you're tracking race, the same part where you're tracking gender, and other, we've got 6 worker characteristics. There's now contractor status as one of those characteristics. So what you can see just as a top line finding, moving from the features to the finding a little bit, is that around 21% of the creative economy in California is this independent contractor. So, that's actually a pretty significant, 1 in 5 workers that were not technically represented in previous analyses that we're actually representing now. And just a little bit of a taste of what we can do now using this contractor status filter is we can report like unemployment by contractor status. And what we found, and this was surprising to us at Westwood, is that the unemployment rate for contractors is actually lower. So that's creative contractors, is actually lower than for full-time employers. So moving to the race categories, we of course moved to a more granular view representing Asian, Hispanic, Black, and other communities. And you can play around, look at unemployment, you can look at compensation, you can look at overall compensation or composition, excuse me, as we've done in this graph of the creative economy. There's a top line finding here that we're certainly not the first to report. There remains a significant stylized fact in the creative economy, which is that it's a majority white industry in California. And our tools, the dashboard format allows you to track this in a more satisfying way. I want to jump into what's going on in the creative economy, but before I do that, I'll just, a little bit of review for most people in this room about what the California creative economy is. It's a huge part of the California economy, a huge economic driver, employing 760,000 workers and accounting for 5% of all jobs. A key fact about this economy that's important from an economic development standpoint is that on average, these are very good jobs, very well-paying jobs, 191,000. And this is full-time workers that we're reporting here. And we don't need to tell you that the sort of greater entertainment complex, as we call it, so that includes new media and traditional media, that accounts for almost 1 in 2 creative jobs in the state. Moving to what is going on, what's current, and this is a little bit review from the March event. There's 5 key findings that we want to draw people's attention to. And they're listed here, and we're just going to go through them rather quickly so we can leave enough time for questions and answers. There is always, ever since the start of this program of research, a focus on what is the top line result? How is the top line changing from year to year in California? Are creative jobs growing or are they contracting? So in the most recent year that we reported, there was a contraction in California by just under 1%, 0.9%. But California, in spite of these concessions, in spite of shrinking its payrolls by just under 1%, it does remain the national leader. And everything I was saying about the creative economy being a backbone, a strength of the California economy remains so. What is going on at a sectoral level is you have in this like latest year-over-year data, you have the rebound to a certain extent from the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes. So you've got job gains in traditional media, but you have at the same time job losses in new media. And we're going to see this show up as well in a few slides. Thinking specifically about media, this is a subject that's on everyone's minds, and there's no shortage of takes about what's going on here, not always super informed by the data. And what we want to do with this program of research is start with the data and then let the takes and the policy prescriptions sort of flow from there. Here what we're doing is we're tracking, on one hand, overall employment in film and TV and sound. So that's the blue. And then also the pink, which is overall production days in LA County. And a real focus of the dialogue on the creative economy, or specifically on the entertainment economy in California and Los Angeles County, has been on production days, making sure that we get production days up, making sure that we are employing all the great workers, all the great skilled workers who are responsible for producing, for shooting film and television. But what we have been sort of beating the drum on for the past couple of years is that that's only one part of the industry. And if you look over the last 10 years, if you look over the last 20 years, the share of activity in Los Angeles County of a film and television activity that's more executive-based, more office-based, less production-based, has been growing. It's been growing consistently. And if you sort of look at the gap between these two trends, between the blue and the pink, that's only widened in the past 5 years, widened since the days of peak TV, widened since the pandemic. And so increasingly, you have to sort of parse your discussion of what's going on in entertainment in Los Angeles into what's going on in production. And yes, we need to retain production in Los Angeles County. It's vitally important as a source of good jobs for people from all kinds of backgrounds. But at the same time, you can't conflate what's going on in production with the wider industry, which is innovative, or, very innovative, managerial, and has all these functions that they really are serving productions all over the world and not just in Los Angeles County. There's a very bright spot in the data when we look at changes over the past year, and that is fine arts. So fine arts has been doing well in the creative economy in California. It's the only sector to have added jobs in each of the last 2 years, and it's added the second most jobs in the past 5 years. Initially, we were a little confused about what's going on with fine arts. Is this museums or what? But really, what's driving this fine arts number is growth in fine arts jobs attached to universities. So California is and has always been a leader in fine arts education, and this edge has only grown. And dare I say, like, we're going to do some more research on artificial intelligence. Dare I say that artificial intelligence probably won't change this too much, because there will continue to be art schools. It will continue to be based in the carbon-based world. And we think that a lot of that will continue to be in California. There's another sort of what an economist would call secular shift that's happening in the creative economy in California. And that's a movement towards a more skilled, in terms of college degree workforce. So, it used to be that the median worker in the creative industries in California did not have a college degree. Now it's increasingly true that workers in the creative industries in California have advanced college degrees. This is bound up in a movement towards higher average wages in the creative industries. So, there's a positive story here from an economic development standpoint, and there's a somewhat less positive story from the standpoint of job access, and the extent to which the creative economy is representative of the wider economy. The last thing I'll emphasize is what's going on at a regional level, the dashboard. And I should emphasize at this point, all the analysis that I've just presented, you can recreate yourself on the dashboard. Okay, so again, we use this dashboard. We're probably the biggest users of the dashboard right now, but we'd like to challenge some folks out there to use this dashboard more than us and uncover other findings. Write your own reports with the dashboard. Anyway, on the dashboard, we have a way of tracking regions, metropolitan regions. And we're very interested in, as a Los Angeles-based company, what's going on in Los Angeles. We're also interested in San Francisco. Of course, San Francisco is a base for new media. Los Angeles traditionally base for traditional media. And what you see is that this contraction in new media has been felt more acutely in San Francisco than Los Angeles. And this slight rebound from the strikes, it has been based more in the Los Angeles metropolitan area, not just LA County, but Ventura County and Orange County. So just looking ahead, California is a leader for the creative economy. It will be a leader for the creative economy for years to come. We want to do even better, of course. That's one of the driving forces for this program of research. There's a lot of high growth aspects of the creative economy that are centered here, including in really new media, like the creator economy. That's an area we're continuing to track. You could also look at AI, the extent to which AI development is based in the Bay Area, and the adoption of AI technologies by the likes of the entertainment industry, by the likes of the fashion industry, are also kind of based in the Bay Area. as these trends that we've talked about towards a higher skill, higher wage, creative economy continue, it becomes even more important that there's workforce development to ensure that there are skill ladders and pathways for folks into from from outside of colleges and universities into the creative economy. So that's a big policy push. Okay, so the last thing I'd like to do here, and this is maybe the most exciting, is drill down a bit. And the dashboard, as we conceived of it initially, as we released it last year, the lowest level of analysis possible geographically is the county level. And you can do a lot of really good work there, especially in smaller counties. But what we really want to do, where we really want to push the analysis and even generate new dashboards, is at the sub-county level. And in a smaller county, this doesn't matter so much. But in a county like Los Angeles County, with dozens of cities, it's really important to see what's going on. How are certain cities faring against other cities? How is, say, the rebound from the strikes? How might that be concentrated in certain cities within the county? And there's so many city-based, city-level policymakers who have always been asking us for this kind of data, and we're finally developing tools and developing partnerships that will allow us to do that analysis. So with our friends from the city of LA here, we wanted, and with their support in gathering this data, we wanted to talk through just a little bit about what's going on in the city of LA, how it compares to the county of LA. And this is really trying to generate some enthusiasm for more of this kind of even more granular analysis. So I'm just going to present a few slides about the city of Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles's creative economy. It accounts for 8% of all jobs in the city of Los Angeles. And similar to in the state as a whole, the average salary of workers in the creative industries in California is higher. It's around 90,000 than for the economy-wide average. So the city-wide average, it is, if you're paying attention, lower than the statewide average. But this is just starting to gesture at some of the work that you can do when you're looking at what's going on in the city. Okay, so if you think about all the creative jobs in the county of Los Angeles, about 38% of creative jobs are in the city of Los Angeles. And this compares to about 36% of overall jobs in Los Angeles County. So what this means is that Los Angeles City does specialize a little bit in the creative economy, but maybe not as much as you might expect. There's a lot of creative activity going on outside of the city of Los Angeles. What was really interesting to us about this analysis is that entertainment is maybe a little bit less centered. LA County entertainment is a little bit less centered on the city than we were expecting. So just 18% of film, television, and sound jobs in the county are in Los Angeles City. And maybe if you start to map in your head the entertainment industry, that makes more sense. You think about Burbank and North Hollywood and all these places with a lot of entertainment jobs that are not in the city of Los Angeles. So that begs the question of well, what kind of creative activities are centered in the city of Los Angeles? Well, first of all, this fine art sector, which, as we've said, has been a source of growth in the wider creative economy in the state and in the wider creative economy in the county, that is especially centered in the city of Los Angeles. And again, you do a mental map, you think of UCLA and USC, just as some example, or Otis College, you can start to understand why the city of Los Angeles is such a leader there. But then also you look at traditional media, architecture, and advertising having the majority of county jobs in those areas in the city of Los Angeles. And by number, the fashion industry represents the largest creative sector in the city of Los Angeles, with more than 1 in 5 jobs. I'll just say that the fashion industry is something that we want to track even more going forward. We would like to do a detailed study of the fashion industry very soon, because there is a misperception that just because there's not a lot of widespread or like mass fashion manufacturing happening in Los Angeles, that the industry's gone. As you can see, that nothing could be farther from the truth. Finally, if you just sort of compare trends in Los Angeles city versus Los Angeles County, you can see some interesting differences. So where the trends are moving in the same direction, that's noteworthy, maybe not as interesting. But where there's a difference, maybe that's something that's worthy of more policy attention. So over the past year, just at the top line, the city of Los Angeles has shed creative economy jobs, while the surrounding county has added them. Okay, so even there, that's interesting. So maybe there's like a slightly elevated policy challenge present in the city when it comes to like creative economic development. And this is true at the entertainment level. So if you look at what's going on in film and television, especially sound, it sounds a smaller part of this wider entertainment industry. The county's adding in these areas, but the city is losing jobs in these areas. The new media and fashion sectors are also cutting jobs in the city, but adding them in the county. So what we are seeing for the first time, with the benefit of this more granular analysis, is some interesting differences between what's going on in and outside of the city of Los Angeles. And this does emphasize, why we would like to do more of the city level analysis, especially within the county of Los Angeles. There's no county in the United States with more creative jobs than the county of Los Angeles, but there's 88 cities, and they each have different strengths. They also have different trends, as we've just seen. What we are just starting to do, what you yourselves just saw is some of the first city level analysis using these gold star data sources from the government. When it comes to city level placemaking, land use regulation, economic development services, and infrastructure and that sort of thing, city level analysis is really what you need in order to understand your respective communities' strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats around the creative economy. So with that, I think we can get to some questions.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to be reading the questions in the order that they came in.
Great.
And our first question is from Krista, who is asking if there's any info globally or even in the US for other cities. So I don't know if you know the answer to that.
Okay, so let me try to describe the kind of paradigm that we exploit in the traditional Otis report on the creative economy. That is like, there's some data that's collected by censuses. So censuses are these big studies of what's going on in a jurisdiction, and then there's some that comes ultimately from tax records. Okay, so the country or the state would do something like a census, and the country or the state would do something like keep tax records. So as soon as you jump ocean, you don't have access to this kind of data anymore. So that's kind of the downside. The bright side is that we are in, as everyone knows, a data-rich world. And at Westwood, we try to be very opportunistic with doing things like scraping the internet, scraping sources. One example of that in entertainment that would be more global would be looking at information on where, open access information on where film and television products are being shot and aggregating that together. So you really have to rely on that sort of data more. Another example, and really the gold standard right now, globally would be something like LinkedIn. LinkedIn, doesn't have full global coverage. Not everyone is on LinkedIn in some other countries as in the United States, but it's as close as we can get to a international directory of the labor market. And LinkedIn's getting better and better at sharing that kind of data. And there's other ways of figuring out what's going on LinkedIn sort of publicly. So the answer to your question is yes, there's ways to get these global questions. And then I'd say, as you probably would agree, the questioner, it's vital to do that because we are in a global economy, because what's going on in Hungary or what's going on in Toronto does affect what's going on in Los Angeles County and something like film and television. So we are kind of on the case trying to assemble more of these tools and use them to support folks like the people who are in this webinar.
Right, thank you. So our next question is from Bim, who is asking, what do you think are the root causes for the race disparity in the creative economy? What do you think are some creative solutions toward a more equal and equitable workforce?
Okay, so on the second part of the question, beware of an economist who is too quick to offer a solution, right? So our comparative advantage as economists is analysis. We can talk through solutions. We can do some analysis of policies, but the great policy minds in this room are the experts in what can be done. But as for the first part of the question, this industry is getting more human capital dependent, so dependent on degrees, dependent on advanced degrees. And we all know that there are certain structural barriers for some certain communities, certain race communities, to accessing colleges and universities, to accessing advanced degrees. So if there's an unequal labor or unequal sorting process into universities, then that becomes an unequal distribution in 10 years in the labor market. So I won't talk about policy solutions or policy approaches, but the correct approaches do have to intervene pretty early to a certain extent to deal with this kind of college and university issue. But there's certainly other aspects, other more hidden aspects like access to important networks. A lot of jobs in the creative industries are posted, but they're only they're posted publicly, but they're filled privately. They're filled through the network. So you'll put the job up, but you'll already know who you're gonna hire, and that person's in your network. Networks, unfortunately, are highly racialized, and they tend to favor in the current format of the economy white people on average. So those are just a couple fundamental things that you have to grapple with if you want to ultimately get to a more representative creative industry in racial terms.
Great, thank you. Our next question is anonymous, but it is, what are the examples of the highest paying jobs?
Right. And I think it's a very important question because when you look at an average, as we do with average wages in the report, there's going to be these super high paying jobs that are skewing that average, they're pushing it up. I think there's a lot of creative workers in this webinar maybe who are very surprised to find out that the average creative wage in Los Angeles, in the city of Los Angeles, is over $90,000. It's a reasonable wage because they themselves don't make anything like that. And the average is pushed up by successful actors or successful producers and so forth. But let's get to the what are the jobs doing that? Executive jobs are doing that. So if you are a executive at a studio, your wages are significantly higher. They're in the top probably 20%, 20th percentile. Another big source of high wages in the creative economy is actually lawyers. So, and this goes back to the work we did on the toy industry. Negotiating contracts is a huge part of how the entertainment industry functions, and it gets more and more and more important as the industry gets more complex. As there's more people involved, there need to be more lawyers, and lawyers get paid a lot. I mean, that's probably not news to most people in this room. There's also specialized sources of knowledge. You can think about systems architecture. You can think about artificial intelligence, and these sort of technological expertises are increasingly drawn on in the entertainment industry, and they and those jobs are very well paid. And then, finally, and maybe this is the biggest sort of mass of high-paying jobs in the creative economy. There's a business expertise, business school, or business skill like you might get at a business school. People with MBAs, more and more of those folks are being represented in new media, in greater entertainment, in fashion, even in like the fine arts industry. So these are all sources of well-paying jobs. The big economic development challenge is, not necessarily to make those jobs less well-paying, but to ensure that the wages of folks towards the median or the lower below the median of the distribution are seeing real wage increases over time.
Great, thank you. Our next question will be from Audrey. Is there info for employment based on race, ethnicity, and other demographics?
Yes, there is in our dashboard. So you might wonder, why isn't Patrick up there like Steve Jobs, like dynamically showing the dashboard? I'm not coordinated enough, and there's too much of a chance that it doesn't work. But if you go to the dashboard right now, and you the worker the worker panel, so we've got multiple panels. You go to the worker panel, you can start to do analysis on, for instance, race right now. What we're really excited about is, especially at like higher levels of geography, like the state, you can combine. So, for instance, independent contractor status and race, you can start to or like gender and race, sex and race, you can start to see how these things combine, how trends combine. So you can start that analysis right now.
Great. Our next question is going to be from Tom. And Tom is wondering if you could speak to creative production going overseas, particularly the production of entertainment marketing materials.
Okay. So the last one's very specific, and we're trying to get more granular with our data. We have not achieved coverage of entertainment marketing materials. On the general theme, it does seem like since the pandemic, since the late part of the pandemic, and since even the strikes, this movement towards moving certain functions overseas has accelerated a little bit. And how we currently understand this, and we haven't done like a full deep dive, and by the way, no one else has either. How we currently understand this is traditionally, as entertainment jobs were going overseas, they weren't necessarily being taken from California or Los Angeles. But our senses, by talking to our informants who are working in the entertainment industry, talking about things like location scouting, that there might be some of that happening now. So there might be literal productions that 5 years ago might have been shot in Los Angeles or even in a place like New Orleans or New Mexico, and now are being shot overseas. But this does really beg the question that was raised, the first question, which is data sources, data tracking of what's going on globally, and we are on that case as we speak.
Great, thank you. I see a follow-up question about the demographics. So I just want to ask this right now. Are people able to see worker demographics by county, or can they only see that statewide in the dashboard?
It's statewide in the dashboard.
Great, thank you. And then moving on to our next question. This is anonymous. When you say jobs in a certain location, shall we assume you are saying where each worker lives and pays taxes? Is there a way to locate two different sets of metrics where creatives live and pay taxes and the different landscape of where their employers are headquartered?
Right. So this is another, it's like as soon as we handle one data challenge, we really focus on another data challenge. This is a really good one. So yes, the questioner is exactly right. And I think traditionally, if you can imagine like 5-day-a-week in-person work, the distance between those 2 points wasn't that large. But now, you can imagine like remote jobs or somewhat remote jobs where the distance is much, much larger and where it's important to account for that. The data that is released regularly that supports our dashboard doesn't allow for this kind of trigonometry between place of work, place of residence. But you can start to do that when you go into more micro data sets. And I think this is a very good idea. It's good inspiration for a study that we might do going forward. So maybe the last thing I'd say there is we're trying to do more work, like looking at what's going on in creative industries within Los Angeles County. And, maybe you can start to map place of work, place of employment, place of residence, and you can sort of model the migration of money and economic impact through the commuting process. So if you've got a place that is relying on local residence taxes for work by workers who are earning their wages elsewhere in other jurisdictions, then that could be perhaps beneficial for the place of residence and less beneficial for the place that is seeding the economic activity to begin with. So if you are that place, then maybe you are interested in trying to get more people living close to where they work. And by the same token, if you're the bedroom community, you need to make sure that there is a good traffic, good access from your community to the employment lands where the creative job takes place. So there's a whole host of important policy issues to unpack. There are some tools using survey data, like individual record survey data, that you can start to use to unpack that. But we would not expect for the time being a kind of dashboard type product to sort through all that stuff. That would be more of this detailed study that we like to pursue when we're not updating the dashboard.
Right. Our next question is from an anonymous attendee who is curious about accessing the raw data that you used in your presentation through the dashboard. Is this possible? If so, could you just describe how to do it?
So we, and I might invite Tanner to talk about this. At various points, we have made download of the data available. I'm not sure if that is currently turned on now, but it's something that we have done in the past. And yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to say that if you have requests and you need to like troubleshoot the dashboard in some way, you should write to Otis. We can put an email address up, and that will make its way to us, and we can sort of work to address that. But if that function isn't there now, we we can explore maybe making it available, because it is in the spirit of this kind of democratized analysis that I was talking about in the presentation.
Great. And
Thank
we have put the email address in the chat for everyone. So if you do have additional questions you'd like to follow up, you can email us. Our next question is coming from Michael. Michael would like to know if you're taking into account the rise of streamers in your data, and would they be considered independent contractors?
Great. It's an excellent question. For as long as we've been involved in the Otis report, we have wanted to track the so-called creator economy. So this is folks, including streamers, who make their living or who make a living, on digital platforms. So streamers would be ones who are like making content on places like Twitch and YouTube. Okay, so some of these folks are being, okay, so if, like we can imagine a person who doesn't pay taxes and doesn't own a company, they're not technically being represented by these sources, right? Because there's only so many ways that we get at them. But if you're filing taxes and as a streamer, you will show up in this data, at least indirectly. And so that's part one. You're in here. A lot of those folks are in here. It's not the most formalized part of the economy, so there's a lot of people who are kind of working off the grid, a lot more people in the streamer economy than in like banking or something. So that's part one. But part two is we want to do a creator economy study. We are currently working with a marketing platform for the creator economy to collect data on the geography of the creator economy as a way of kind of piloting a Otis report style approach to tracking creators specifically. And then within this, you could look at streamers specifically. So we're definitely on the case there. The final thing I'd say is so creator streamers are represented here. There are still not nearly as many streamers who are making a kind of substantial amount of money in this economy as there are people in the traditional film and television economy, or for that matter, the pre-streaming new media economy. So it's a hugely growing and important section of the economy, but it's not yet the where the mass of the labor force is.
Great. Our next question is from Gary, and Gary is wondering if you've been able to get labor data from IATSE or Teamsters or SAG-AFTRA. Below the line workers are often paid much less than 90K, as do most actors and actresses.
Right. Okay. So all those acronyms, and Natalie, you did a great job with those. They're unions and guilds, and unions and guilds do track. Obviously, they have to workforce activity for their members. It's not part of the dashboard. It could be the part of the dashboard in the future. We'd love to establish some more partnerships with folks in the unions to figure out how we might do that. But maybe more importantly, the general point is right on. If you go back to the 1960s, the ratio between the below the line wage and the above the line wage was a lot more even than it is today. And it's without question that in a lot of below the line activities, certainly not all of them, but in a lot of them, the below the line worker is not at all being represented by the average salary. So yeah, it's important to keep that in mind. And it gets, I guess maybe the last thing I'll say is it gets at the sort of limits of the data analysis that we have on the dashboard. We can't report everything. There's not the data tools to report everything. And that's why there needs to be a program of research that allows for detailed study. So I could totally imagine over the next couple of years us taking up the mission of tracking what's going on below the line, and maybe we would be needing to partner with guilds in order to get at that issue. So thanks for highlighting that very important issue for everyone. I guess there's one thing I forgot to do that I'd love to do just while we still have a couple minutes. Westwood, so Westwood is myself. The principals are myself and Tanner, and we've got a bunch of really great specialists who work with us. Tanner and myself are not coders. Okay, we this dashboard is fast. This dashboard is pretty. This dashboard works better than an off-the-shelf Tableau dashboard, and that's not because again, Tanner and myself, we work with folks from Zoo Hill Data out of Seattle to build the dashboard. So I did want to highlight their contributions while we still have people in the room.
Right. So it is 2:56, and this is going to be the last question that I'm going to give you today. And this is from Daniel at Impact Focus Advisors. Daniel was wondering if you could share insights on the major employers, both public and private, that are currently driving job opportunities for creative professionals beyond the academic institutions.
Okay, so these would be like green shoots outside of fine arts. Okay, so there are in like new media, there are certain new media companies related to artificial intelligence that have been growing. We don't really track individual employers, and there's not a lot of data that tracks individual employers, but certainly if you think about these new media industries, the ones that are developing AI tools for use by the new media industries, like those are expanding. Another green shoot would be, well, we were just talking about it, but the creator economy, right? So you ask for employers, but so much of the entertainment economy is fragmented, not among, it's not with like traditional employers, but it's fragmented among streamers, for instance, as the last questioner talked about, and other creators. So that's a green shoot as well. Beyond that, I'll just say that like individual employer level data is the sort of thing that that the state economic development folks track a little bit, but that the tools that we use in this dashboard are not the best at reflecting.
So thank you all for the great questions. And I want to thank Patrick and the team at Westwood for all their work on this important research. So, and also thank you again to Ben Espinosa and the Department of Cultural Affairs, City of LA, for their ongoing support of the work. Again, to learn more about the creative economy, we invite you all to download the latest research and to explore the dashboard that Patrick touched on today on the Otis website. This fall, we're also going to be releasing new research on the impact of the nonprofit art sectors on the creative economies of Los Angeles and California at a special in-person event. Those of you RSVP'd for today will receive details on that as soon as they're ready to be shared. And of course, to learn more about future events at Otis College and about the creative economy as a whole, please visit us at otis.edu/events. So thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you soon, and we hope you all have a great day. Thank you, Patrick, and everybody.